You're listening to Simple Roots Radio, episode number 93, and today we're talking all about emotions and how it's affecting every single cell in your body. Yes, we're diving in to how your mindset could be changing your health and how to make it work for you.
Welcome to Simple Roots Radio with Alexa Sherm. Alexa believes that simplicity in life is the key to achieving true and lasting health. And now your host, Alexa Sherm.
Welcome back. I'm your host, Alexa, and as always, this is the place to get healthy, live happy, and find joy. Today, we're going to do a little bit of all three. We're going to really dive into how our emotions are affecting our biology and how we can better our health in simple, practical steps. Today, I have on the show someone who's very near and dear to my heart. This is actually not their first episode here on Simple Roots Radio. Dr. Cooper was on episode number 55, talking about how I got my health back and some more about energy in the body. So you're going to want to check out that episode as well. But Dr. Cooper is back on. She's near and dear to my heart. Like I said, she's my own practitioner who got my health back literally when I was in the biggest health crisis of my life today. And I so value her opinion and experience. And she was one of the first persons who introduced me into emotional therapies and work, helping me to get rid of all the baggage that I had been holding on to and releasing that to live with more health. Because at the end of the day, all this emotional baggage and trauma that we carry around is having a negative impact on our body. It's called body memory, and our body constantly refers to those unconscious emotions and thoughts in our filing cabinet to take care of our body, even though we're not conscious of it. It really is fascinating stuff. So if you've had some kind of trauma, maybe you are always living threatened or anxious or scared or fearful, and we have all these negative emotions that can just be ingrained in us from past emotions. So today on the show, we're going to dig into more about how this happens, why it happens, and how we can change it. How can we experience not only emotional freedom, but how we can experience better health with the right mindset. And there's so much power in this, and she's going to explain more about that. So I'm so excited to have her on the show. But before we get started, don't forget you can find out more about today's show and get all of the information and resources that we're going to talk about that we might bring up in today's show over in the show notes at simplerootswellness.com/093. Again, all the information on today's show, as well as additional information, can be found over there. So you're going to want to check that out. While you're there, make sure you sign up for my email list to get put on the Summer Health Challenge series. Yes, every week I'm releasing a simple, easy challenge that you can do any time of the week. This week, the challenge was to have one smoothie for breakfast. Now, we're not talking about a sugar-laden smoothie, carbohydrate-loaded smoothie. We're talking about really deep down nourishing smoothies. And these are different than most smoothies. So over there, I give you all the details on what all the requirements are for this nourishing smoothie, and then just challenging you to do one each day at the start of your day. So just to give you an example, what I'm finding with smoothies is that they are a great place to add all these quote unquote superfoods that you might not be able to add into your diet elsewhere. They're also a great place to get a lot of healthy greens and just start your day with an energy boost. So these smoothies are going to include a lot of healthy fat and protein and veggies and fiber with just a little bit of carbs, trying to keep you in that fat adapted state, providing tons of energy and preventing you from jumping on that sugar roller coaster right away. So if you want to know more, head on over there. You can sign up to get all the challenges so far and make sure you stay up to date on what's coming out next week. Head on over to simplerootswellness.com/093 to get up to date on that. But for now, let's get right to the show. Welcome to the show, Dr. Cooper. I'm excited to have you on for the second time. You're kind of one of those most requested guests, so thanks for coming back on.
Absolutely.
Okay, today we're going to dive into emotions. And I know from coming to your clinic that I've had some emotional work done on myself in my own healing journey, and I always think it's fascinating. And this summer we're doing a whole mindset series. So I wanted to get your perspective because I feel like you'll take us into the deep levels of how our emotions and our mindset is actually affecting our biology. And this mind-body connection. So I just want to start by breaking down, how does our body actually communicate? Because I think there's a lot of misnomers about that and that we have all these separate organ systems, but really our body's working together as a whole. So can you kind of break down the basics of how our body's actually communicating with itself?
Well, that's a big question. I'm not sure that anyone really understands how the body completely communicates with itself, right? But I'll give you the way that I tell my patients to the best of my ability. So we have a brain and a spinal cord, and that brain and spinal cord act like your hard drive, like your breaker box in your house, so to speak. It's what, if you think of energy, I always think in the chiropractic world, we talk above, down, inside, and out, meaning grabbing the energy from above, bringing it down onto the earth, pulling it in, and then being able to release the energy as well. So the brain and the spinal cord are your main energetic houses, okay? And from that area, you've got software. So the organ systems, every cell, everything that touches anything else on the body away from the brain and the spinal cord would be considered a software to it. So the cells actually communicate at a frequency of 635 nanometers. It's nothing I make up. This is a scientific fact. So we know that cells talk to each other, so to speak, and vibrate on that level. And so the hard drive of the body is sending signals, and again, so many different types of signals, right? I mean, we could go into, I could talk about the spinal thalamic tract, all the different tracks that go on. But at the same time, that becomes, first and foremost, rather boring unless you really understand the neurology. But I like to look at it like it's just a way of turning on some light switches to the body. And, how do you do that? Well, you can turn them on by, even on your own without a doctor's help, simply by doing very simple breathing exercises can turn those things back on. Staying away from chemicals, staying away from heavy metal type, like we were driving today. I was taking my daughter to the airport, and they were spraying, like Roundup or glycophosphates or whatever. And I'm just like, roll the windows up, don't breathe for a moment, because all of those things affect our nervous systems in a big way and shut it down. So staying away from as much of that as you can, staying away from the foods that cause it. I mean, drinking water will turn that part of the nervous system back on. So some of the work that we do and that many other physicians work on as well is how do we turn that nervous system back on? Because I've always felt, the power that made the body heals the body, and it's just figuring out how to turn that power back on and the right light switch, right? If you've got a light out in your house, like I did last night, behind my home, I needed to see them. Like, why are those two lights not working? Well, I went and I looked at my breaker box, and guess what? There was one little switch that had flicked for whatever reason. I reset the breaker, and voila, the lights come on. We look at it like such a miracle. And sometimes in the body, it is just like that. So you just have to realize that the body is functioning on that neurological level and on that vibrational level. And so everything has to communicate properly, or there's interferences. And, typically when a doctor comes in, whether it be a medical doctor or a chiropractor, any kind of a doc that comes into play is when there is an interference in that communication. So something's happened, whether it be a structural problem, a trauma, a food that maybe the person didn't handle well, an allergy. Electromagnetic frequency is a huge stressor that people don't realize. And that whole emotional level, and that's what you want to talk about today. And those emotional triggers can cause a lot of distress, a lot of havoc within the system, and they sit there, and they can sit there and fester, and they can stay there in the subconscious part of our being and on the cells. And that's a rather interesting component that I'm sure we'll discuss.
Yeah, so I want to take a deeper dive into the emotions and how our mindset plays a role. So what is the effect of our mindset and our emotions on our health?
Well, we know that every single cell of the body has a neuropeptide, has an ability to hold on to an emotional component. And Candace Pert, who is a renowned neuroscientist, I've talked about her many times, she wrote a book called Molecules of Emotion. And she discovered this, and this was probably discovered, I'm going to say maybe 20 years ago now, but actually found without a shadow of a doubt that our cells can have a receptor that if there is an emotional trigger, it will adapt. It will actually go to that receptor so that you remember. So, for instance, so that your body can even look at, oh, that's hot, that's red on the stove. That must mean it's hot. Don't touch it, right? So you think about, you've got three little girls, right?
Yeah.
My brain just leave me.
Yeah.
Sometimes you come to my office with more than three.
I know.
So you confuse me.
Don't add more to this chaos than there is.
No? Yeah, there we go. So, I mean, but you, from the time they were little, you have taught them what is okay and what is not okay. And their nervous system sometimes had to learn, right? What was okay or not okay. They touch something that's sharp. Ooh, don't do that again. They eat something that tasted bitter or terrible. Ooh, I don't want that. But what you have to realize is that there can be an emotional link that combines to it. So let's say they walk into a house, any of us walk into a home, and a dog comes at them and bites you. Well, you get bit by a dog. Sometimes you have a fear for the rest of your life of dogs. Why? Whereas the dog doesn't even have to bite you. The dog can growl and just scare you. It can just be a dog that doesn't look like a dog that you know. And all of a sudden you'll have these irrational fears as well. But sometimes fears that you really should have, right? Like if there is a dog coming at you, you should probably back away if it's not a good dog. But just to give you that example, that the body does that for a reason. And sometimes that emotion doesn't get washed away. Sometimes that emotion just gets stuck there, and then it just festers. Unfortunately, it can fester forever unless you are able to work through it. Be it with some therapy sometimes is needed. There's some great techniques like emotional freedom technique, EFT, a great tapping technique. I mean, of course, one of the techniques that I do that is near and dear to my heart is neuro-emotional technique. That was, basically Dr. Scott and Debbie Walker are the developers of that technique, and truly just has changed my life and many others. And I look at these things and how they help people be able to evolve, right? Not get stuck in. I mean, have you ever seen anyone that if you go to a high school reunion that still looks exactly like they did in high school?
Right, yeah.
Yeah, they got stuck there, right? I mean, they just got stuck there, and they can't evolve past that. I mean, I'm going to have my 35th class reunion. It tells you how old I am. But there will be people at that class reunion that are still wearing the same clothes, maybe bigger, but the same clothes, but have the same hairdo, right? Unless they've lost their hair. But they just have gotten locked into that mindset. And what I love to see are people that can evolve past it, right? People that can move beyond that. And, myself, I mean, we make goals and we make all these things of what we want to be when we grow up. And sometimes once we hit that spot, we go, oh, this is it? Like, this is it? And that was kind of what happened to me. And so I was 35 years old. I was a successful chiropractor. I had 2 children. I had a great marriage. I had a nice home. I was driving a nice car. I really had everything going. I mean, what we all think we kind of aspire to. And I'm like, I'm 35 and this is it. And if I were the typical person in today's world, I mean, I could see being like, ugh, like I'm sad or depressed or whatever that looks like. And I would have absolutely, I'm sure, went on a medication to just so that I didn't have to feel that, because I was feeling this emotion that didn't make sense to me. Okay. And so I always say, by God's grace, I had somebody walk into my life that did show me the neuro-emotional technique. In Florida, such a bizarre conference that I happened to be at, and Dr. Schwietert and I are still best of friends, and changed my life forever. And I learned this technique, and it literally helped me move on from things that had happened to me in my past that was just like my suitcase, right? We all carry this suitcase around. Why? It's because that's what humans do. And we carry this luggage and this weight and this heaviness sometimes that just weighs on us, whether it weighs on your heart, whether it weighs on your gut, whether it weighs on your liver, whether it weighs on your head. I mean, it can just really weigh on your being. And when you can work through some things and find out, kind of the why, like why was I so sad? Well, it was something that happened to me when I was 18 years old. And, it is what it is. So you have to move past some of those things. And that really helped me a lot. And I feel so grateful that I'm able to help other people do that. But it's simply, even to be able to do some in-home kinds of things are important too. And it's just being able to honestly just kind of let go. And so sometimes that's easier said than done. And so sometimes you do have to reach out. And there are a lot of docs that do this work anymore. And you can always get onto their website too and find a doc around if you just want to kind of see, like, where am I on that emotional level?
Mm-hmm. Right. Because when I was doing some research for the mindset and emotion, I've learned that about 90% of our actions come from our unconscious or subconscious mind. So they're not necessarily things that we could maybe we're not thinking about them all the time. And so when I've done this with you, what technique have I done with you with the emotional stuff?
The neuro-emotional technique and NET.
Yeah. So you're able to like go back and kind of trigger things in my past that I've been holding on to. And so they say about like 90% of our actions come from our unconscious mind. And these aren't things, if this is right, these aren't things that necessarily we can always come up with on our own. Like, in my understanding, to help fix these previous traumas and past emotions, a lot of times you do need to seek some help in that. Is that what you would say with that?
I would agree. And I know it's hard for people when they're listening to podcasts and things because they really want to be able to do some things on their own. And certainly there are techniques that can help you. But if you've got some past traumas in your life, and we all do. I mean, and here's the deal. I think with these traumas, I think back, some of the bigger ones, when their parents get divorced, that can be a huge trauma for people. If someone has died, even let's say a pet, if a pet has passed away, that can be a big trauma for people in their past. Women, honestly, when they have to go through, whether it be a miscarriage, whether it be an abortion, those are probably some of the biggest traumas that I see. And abuse is, that in itself, we know it's trauma, right? Mm-hmm. And when you mentioned the 90% being unconscious or subconscious, it's like an iceberg. You think about an iceberg and you see just the tip of it, right?
Right.
It's all that stuff underneath. It's all of that really is connected to ourselves. And you need help to be able to move on with that. I mean, acupuncture is another way to be able to release some of those emotional traumas. You see it sometimes on TV. I know I've seen this where they've put acupuncture needles in people in different areas, and they start to cry, right? They have an emotional release. That does not happen very often in acupuncture, but sometimes, right? Depends on what you're doing. But people will either, when they do have the emotional release, will either sweat profusely. It's kind of funny. Or they cry, and that's a way for the body to release these kind of hidden, truly hidden subconscious emotions. And once you find those, it is like a weight being lifted off of your body. Just like, whoa, I don't have to hold on to that anymore. And, we've known for thousands of years in the acupuncture world that there are emotions that are tied to each element. So if we think of elements being fire and earth and metal and wood and water, those are the 5 elements that we look at. Each and every one of those elements have specific emotions that are tied to those elements. So, for instance, anger is an emotion. And, it's okay to be angry at times, but we do see in this world right now that there is there's probably some irrational anger. And I'm sure many people would agree. I mean, oh my gosh, the other day I was like road rage. I'm like, oh my gosh, people take a load. I mean, people need to seriously, just relax. And anger is stuck in the liver. And anger doesn't go in other meridians. It literally is stuck in the liver. And I'll find people that I'm going to tell this very funny story. I think it's a funny story. An older gentleman who had just terrible road rage. I mean, ridiculous road rage. And we did some work with him, and we had been doing some acupuncture, and we ultimately did some NET. And the suitcase that he was harboring actually went back to when his parents had gotten divorced, and he was angry about this and angry that he had no control over it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the next time that I saw him, after we did the release work, the next time that I saw him, his wife came with. And I was like, oh, my goodness gracious, I'm in for it, right? And they sat down, and his wife said, I think you broke him. I said, okay. She said, I was in a car with him, and he didn't get mad once. That's unheard of. And I was like, wow. And she said, seriously, what did you do? Because this was amazing. And he's been so much more mellow. Well, he just, we helped him release that just deep-seated anger that was there because his parents had gotten divorced. What that has to do with driving a car, who knows, right? Except the fact he just didn't have control over the other driver nor his parents. So maybe that was it. But those are the kinds of things that we'll see sometimes. Now, and the kidney will hold emotions like fear and dread and doom. I mean, those are some of the main ones. So like when people say I was so scared I could pee my pants, I mean, that's in the kidney element. That's the water element, right? I mean, that is very true. I mean, people do have that happen, right? And so, but if it's your fire element, which would be like your heart, I mean, some people have that are heart people. And we all know those people, the ones that just carry it, on their shirt sleeve, right? Those people, oh my goodness, I feel they're tough to work with because they harbor everything in their heart. And being able to help release some of that emotional trauma for them, life-changing, absolutely life-changing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's incredible work. Every time I get it done, it's like so fascinating to me to see what it can do. And when you talk about, so I kind of want to go back to the biology aspect, because when you talk about storing emotions, I think it's a really hard concept to grasp, like just to grasp it. And so when you talk about an emotion converts to a neuropeptide, like and then it goes to the cells where they can grab a hold of that. Like, what does that whole process look like? To clarify this, though, emotions aren't just, I think we think of them as just thoughts. They're like nothingness, but they're actually converting into, quote unquote, a chemical in the body that's having an effect in the cell. Like, these aren't just thoughts that are in 1 minute and gone the next. Like, your body's actually doing something with those thoughts and creating something based on those thoughts, correct?
Well, and some emotions are here to, in and out, right? But not every emotion is going to harbor itself. But what we know, again, and if you want to really look at the chemistry, go read that book, Molecules of Emotion with Candace Pert. It's amazing. But it will dive into the neuroscience behind it all. And what it is that the cell itself carries a receptor. It's literally a receptor. So look at it like a little hole maybe, or, something that sits there that the emotion can connect to. And if that emotion, which like you said is a basically, I guess you can look at it like a biochemical reaction, right? It literally holds a space. And if it connects to that cell, then it will sit there. So anger will sit on the liver emotions. On the liver cells. And so, if this is what they say. I don't, how true is it? But they say that every single disease will always have an initial emotional component linked to it. Every single one. Like you don't have a disease because there's a disruption there. A disruption happens in the nervous system, whether, some kind of an emotional disturbance that's like the straw that broke the camel's back, okay? And it's that thing that whether it be an underlying virus that has been sitting there harboring, whether there was an underlying chemical disruption, whatever, but that some type of an emotional link, an emotional component was there. And, we don't really understand everything. Even the most amazing, intelligent biochemists, the body is so miraculous in the way that it can heal itself, that even if I went into detail on all of that, tomorrow somebody could find it. And actually what I said could be completely wrong, right?
Right.
But there is definitely a reaction that happens because you have to remember that you feel something. And I call it a charge. So if you are in a situation and all of a sudden you just like, for me, I'm one of those heart people. It will go right to my heart. Now, some people, it will go right to their gut. Okay. Some people, it'll go directly to their neck. And they'll, how many patients do I have that go, oh, I hold all of my stress in my back. I'm like, stop it. But, people say that, right? And I mean, there are times that you literally can have pain in your neck, and you have in your life someone who is a pain in your neck, and you get rid of that someone, and guess what goes away? The pain in your neck.
Uh-huh.
So I find it just amazing, how when you feel that charge, and if you feel that charge doesn't go away, so sometimes you have to be very present in how you feel. And if you have a lot of that going on, and this is what I see in today's world, we don't like that. We don't like that feel of all this kind of electrical charge going on. And so that's what we're seeing. I mean, the percentage of women that are on antidepressants and the amount of children that are on some kind of antipsychotic medication anymore scares the ever-living bejesus out of me. And it's because we don't want to feel. And we walk into our doctor's office and we say to them, I'm sad. I struggle getting up in the morning. I'm crying a lot. And the first thing that docs have a tendency to do, and not all of them, but here's an antidepressant. Let's see if we can help you get through it. And they just want you to feel better. I get it. But we also know that exercise helps a lot. Unplugging from your cell phone, unplugging from anything electronic. Put this podcast away for a while, come back to it later type of thing. But really unplugging and then reconnecting with Mother Earth. Grounding yourself, go hiking, do what you need to do to get back on and get grounded. Because, my son, perfect example, he'll say, Mom, I didn't want to wake up this morning. And I'm like, why? And I can tell you why. It's because he was on his cell phone. He sleeps with his cell phone way too close to his head, which you should never do. And, the world today is connected 24/7 if they choose to be, right? Like they're always on call. They're always on, anyone can connect with them. And especially our generation from I'm going to say 25 and maybe a little older now, but 25 and under. Kids that are 10 and 12 have a cell phone. Why? They can't drive. They're not with anybody, but they have a cell phone. And so we're living in this world anymore that just needs to, for their nervous system's sake, needs to unplug in a very big way. And that in itself would help a lot of these emotional triggers that we're seeing.
Yeah. So can you keep going with a few more tips of so obviously there's a lot of emotional work that can be done with a practitioner, but what are some other things? Like if you continue on with that, what are some things that we really need to start taking seriously in our lives? Because emotions are playing a huge role in the health of our body. I mean, literally when I walked in your office the first time, or one of the first times that I was there and really sick, you really just laid it out. As long as you continue to try to be everything for everyone, you're going to kill yourself. And a lot of my stuff was just emotional things that I was just putting on myself. I was just trying to carry everything for everyone. And you've really helped me to not do that for the sake of my health. But what are some other things that we can do to help this process?
Well, and I think that's just it. Be okay to ask for help, right? Especially as women, we have a tendency to try to do it all, to have the house that's always clean and the dishes that are always put away and the clothes that are always washed and our kids always look the best, and don't look at Facebook for a week and see how you feel, because everything on Facebook or Instagram or whatever is all the good things. Because think about it, when somebody puts maybe some realness on Facebook or sadness, does anybody want to look at it? No, really, honestly, I don't even want to look at it. That sounds terrible. I don't care if you had a bad day. We all have bad days. But I don't want to read that either, right? So I get it. But if you're going to go onto Facebook, you've got to realize that is the outer appearance of everyone's life. Mm-hmm. And everyone has a story. There is no doubt. And I have to be honest. Don't you chuckle when you see the married couples and the wives posting all these amazing things about their marriage and their anniversaries? And then, 2 weeks later, what's going on?
Right.
Now they're getting divorced, or now there's, and not that that's all the time by any means, but I think it's just, we all want our life to be that white picket fence, right? And is that truly reality? So what I try to help people with is ask for help. And if it's not, like I didn't have parents that lived here. My parents lived in Florida. My husband's parents were retiring. They weren't very local. I didn't have a lot of family, but if you have family, like Alexa, you're so lucky because you do have family here, and then you guys help each other out just beautifully. But not many people have that. So find a college student to come in, or a high school student. I have had help with a high school or college student since the time my oldest is 23, so since the time she was probably 2, just to help me empty the dishwasher, do a couple loads of laundry, and make my bed maybe. I mean, seriously, maybe, honestly, 3, 4, 5 hours a week. Not clean my whole house. Just help it when I walk into my house that life looks better, So be okay asking for help. And what are the things I always say to people? What are the things that bring you joy? What is it that truly brings you joy? And some people have to really sit down and think about it. And I'll tell them at night, what I want you to do is I want you to journal. And you don't have to write a million things. Just write down 2 or 3 words. What brought you joy today? Was it your 2-year-old smile? Was it the fact that they had ice cream all over their face and you were just laughing really hard? I mean, what is it that brought you true joy today? Mm-hmm. And after you do that if you can't find it right away, after you do that for a bit, you'll start to go, wow, that's what makes me happy. So it's finding that. I had a girlfriend, and fresh flowers brought her joy. She loved fresh flowers. And I'm like, then buy yourself fresh flowers twice a week. It doesn't have to be the $20 bouquets. Then, go and get yourself fresh flowers. And right now you can get them, out in your garden if you have it.
Right.
But those brought her joy. So if it's driving down, a country road, then do that. Go explore something new, but find what brings you joy and then do more of that. And we have a tendency to put those things on the back burner, and then we start to forget what truly does bring us happiness and joy. So I think that unplug. I can't say that enough. Unplug. And definitely unplug at night. Like, do not have your cell phone next to your bed or your laptop. Make your room very, very dark so that you get a good night's sleep, because sleep is what regenerates you. If you aren't doing different technologies to help you get energy back in, like we do at our office, whether it be we use pulse electromagnetic frequency, we use microcurrents, we're using ion cleanses, we're using meditations. I mean, there are so many things out there that you can use with technology, but not everybody has that availability. So meditate daily. There's so many free meditations out there that you can get a hold of. Look at that, because that's a great way to just be, so to unplug and to just be, the letter B as in boy and E as in elephant, be a human being. I really, again, especially at night, get the cell phones away from you. You've got to get rid of that electromagnetic pollution. That is tapping into our energy big and bad. If you are somebody that sits at a computer, there are multipolar magnets that you can wear, and we can get you that information. Alexa, if people want to have something to kind of help them so that they are not getting bombarded by that wireless electrical pollution. There are cell phone chip, devices that you can put on your cell phones. I recommend that for everybody. There's laptop chips that you can put on. And again, what these do is and I can get you the information so you can get out on your blog, but what they help with is to disperse that wave so it's not going into you. And I think that is imperative. I always think about where guys wear their cell phones, and it's usually down in their pockets. And I think about what else is down there by their pockets. I'm always telling my son, I want to have normal grandchildren someday. Get your phone out of there. If you're a woman, never, or a guy for that fact, carry your phone by your breast. especially your left side by your heart. Your heart is an electrical being. Think about this. Have you ever heard of heart cancer? Never. Never. Why? Because it's electrical. And you have that phone that has electrical pollution and it's constantly dinging into a tower. That is affecting your heart. Get it away from your body. Get one of the cell chips of some sort so that it's dispersing that pollution away from you. Very important. But try to keep it off your being as much as possible. What else? Drink lots of really good filtered water because water is a current. It helps the body to be able to make your nervous system work better. So really healthy water is important. Stay away from chemicals. Stay away from diet soda, anything with NutraSweet and any of that kind of stuff in there. Those are chemicals, and they just mess with your nervous system. Staying away from anything that has, I'm trying to think of refined sugars, right? So corn syrup. We know that corn syrup is just so bad for you. And again, it messes with the whole system. So let's say that you ate a donut for breakfast and had a Mountain Dew for lunch. And now you're going home and you're starting to wonder, okay, oh my gosh, what am I going to make for dinner? What did I do? And what if you're already somebody who's a worrywart, okay? Worry sits in the earth element, which is stomach, pancreas, and spleen. And so here's someone who's already a worrywart and they're eating way too much sugar. Those are the kinds of people that just hold on and harbor those kinds of emotions. So then in the earth element, in the stomach element, are people with more low self-esteem and they're just despair and hopelessness. And usually those people eat a ton of sugar because they think for a moment
right.
that'll make them feel better. It'll make them feel better. And it typically is just the worst thing for them.
So you just gave us a ton of tips that we can start to do and implement, which is totally perfect. But before we go and wrap this up, what is your big idea when it comes to achieving lasting health? How do we get there, in your opinion? I know you gave us a lot of those tips, and maybe that's just do that. But what is your big idea?
Well, of course I'm a chiropractor, right? So I honestly feel that everyone needs to make sure that their nervous system is optimum and working properly because it is your hard drive. And so I think everybody has a beautician or a hairstylist that cuts their hair, or most people do. Everyone should have a chiropractor that they absolutely adore, right? If you do not adore your chiropractor, find another one because they are the people that are keeping your nervous system up and running. And by keeping your nervous system up and running, you will feel better. You will have less pain. You will think clearer. You will be less ill. There is no doubt. We know that over time and time and time again that you have less colds and flus and all of that. And even if you do get sick, you recover quicker because your nervous system is working properly. So I think the big picture for me is be sure that you have someone that's taking care of your nervous system and helping you with that. Mm-hmm. Because that nervous system gets hit, and it gets hit from trauma, it gets hit from foods, it gets hit from toxins, it gets hit from these electromagnetic pollution, it gets hit from allergies, and it gets hit with emotions. So finding somebody that can help you with that you are using it as a lifestyle treatment, whether that be once a month, whether that be once a quarter, whether for some people it's once a week, right? What limits people is time and money. Mm-hmm. And you want to find the time to take care of yourself, but you also have to be able to afford wherever you go and what you're doing. So you need to be able to find those things that work the best for you. But that big picture is keeping your nervous system exceptionally healthy and finding someone that knows how to tap in to those things for you to help you. Be okay asking for help, whether it be with your body, with your home, with your children, with your marriage, with your life. It is okay to ask for help. And I always say once you know more, once you listen to your podcast and you're getting all this information out to people, which Alexa, I'm so proud of you, and you do give people so much great information. But once you know this information, now you must do more. I've always thought that once you know more, you must do more. So make sure that once you're done with this, that you think of one thing that hopefully you learned one thing from what we talked about today, and you can take that and you grab it. Whether you say, okay, I am not going to have my cell phone by my bed anymore, and my children's phones are no longer in their bedrooms with them, right? I mean, that's a great place to start. I'm not going to drink diet soda anymore or anything with NutraSweet in it. That's a great place to start. I'm going to look up what is NET. You know, the website for that is netmindbody.com, all put together. So netmindbody.com. And you can look on there and find practitioners, and just there's videos on there to give you more information. But once you know more, you must do more. So I gave you a ton of tips.
Yeah.
Take a couple of those tips, take one of those tips, and do something with it to better yourself, to better your family, to better your life. And you'll be happier all around.
That's fantastic. And you truly live it as well. So that's what I respect so much about you as well. So just a few quick fire questions before we end this. In your own personal life, what is the most important thing you do every day for your health?
Well, I really try to get a good night's sleep. I think that's very important. There's probably several things I do. I drink lemon water, warm lemon water right when I get up, just to kind of get my system and my nervous system working. I do drink a lot of water throughout the day. I find that that's very important. I don't eat any artificial sweeteners ever. You will never, ever, ever catch me doing that. I did have I did have an awesome beer this weekend in Wisconsin called Spotted Cow. Loved it. So every once in a while, I do splurge and do some things like that. But I look at life kind of like 80-20. Like if I can do 80% of the time, I'm doing the right thing, I can kind of get away with 20% of the time of some other things. And, I'm having some friends come in over the 4th of July, and they're practitioners like myself, and we treat each other because, I do. So I do that quarterly, where I get together with people that do what I do, and we work on each other because, people always think, well, how do you keep yourself, emotionally stable, right? And how do you keep yourself structurally stable? Well, guess what? I do what I tell you to do. So I have to go somewhere to find it. It's not like just around my back, the back corner there. So around the corner. So I truly do that. So every day I'm doing my very best to eat well, to drink, good filtered water, to get good sleep. I've got a chip on my cell phone. I never have it by myself at night. I really try to have some quality time with family, with friends, and just be with them, right? Like literally be, to laugh. I love to laugh, so just to have those times and to be with my husband and my kids and, over dinner time, and, there's no cell phones there, right? We're talking and we're laughing and we're being together. And we don't eat out a lot. I cook at home most of the time. I know you do. Your meals look much better than I do. But I think just that. I think doing just as much as you can, like that 80-20 rule, and don't beat yourself up if that 20% slides in, right? Then the next day, just start over again. And I'm really okay asking for help. I have been that person that if it's not my expertise, if I need help in my life, I've always been okay with that. Well, I shouldn't say always. I've gotten better with that. Let's put it that way.
Right. Yeah. I have too, because I have to. I don't want to go back there.
Exactly.
Okay, a couple more. What's your favorite health tip of the moment?
Health tip of the moment. I think I went through about a gazillion of them with you already, right? So I just think we do.
Like new, emerging?
I think the biggest thing, and this is what people just aren't paying enough attention to, is how we are getting literally zapped electrically. And I know at our last podcast that we did, we talked a lot about energy, and we're seeing people that are just zapped, that are just tired, that are depleted. And so you've got to find ways so that you can regain your energy back, right? So that your body has a savings account, so that it's not in bankruptcy. Because we are seeing a lot of disease, a lot of a lot of cancers, a lot of autoimmune, a lot of those things. And honestly, most of it is because we are literally getting zapped. And I say zapped energetically. I mean, the electromagnetic pollution is a big, big deal, but because you can't see it, you don't think it's there. But believe me, it's there. And I always laugh. I say Oprah even talks about it, so it must be real.
Right. Yes. Okay, what's your favorite health gadget you're loving? I know you're kind of a gadget girl, so.
Oh my gosh, I have so many gadgets. One gadget that I really have been using a lot is when we're doing a lot of the allergy work, and I think you even have one of these, is one of the Tai Shins, which is an acupuncture. It's a very affordable way of doing some acupuncture on yourself. And, if anybody wants one of those, we certainly can send out of the office along with the sheet that goes with it that open up those wellness gate points for the body. And I call them their gates. It's they're specific acupuncture points that literally open up the energy to the body for health and wellness. And that's probably, and it's cheap. It's like $30, right? So it's not an expensive gadget. I love that.
And you can use it on anyone then.
We have so much technology that we use in our office anymore because I was using so much of my own energy to try to help people get better that I realized that it wasn't possible anymore. There's only so much of me, and I was getting sick. And I realized that this is crazy. I cannot do it like this anymore. So there are so many cool gadgets, and we use. But I think the Tai Shin probably one of my favorite things right now, and just easy, very, very easy.
That you can do at home. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Last question. What is the best piece of advice you could leave us with?
Well, I'll say it one more time. I honestly think once you know more, you must do more. So take some of the information that Alexa and I talked about today and do something with it. Don't just listen to these podcasts or be that person that reads every single book and then does nothing with it. Because once you start doing something and taking action with the information that you're given, that's when your life gets better. But if you do nothing, if you just sit there and keep reading about it and looking at it, but do nothing changes either. So take action today.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for being here. You're always a wealth of information. I always learn so much, and I know everyone else has. So thank you so much for being on the show again. I'm sure it's not the last time. Why don't you tell everyone where we can learn more about you and follow you and, check out your clinic and other things?
Absolutely. Well, of course, we have our website, holisticwellness.com, and that's going to be revamped here very, very quickly. I'm pretty excited about that. But holistic with a W, so WHO, holisticwellness.com. And then, of course, we have a YouTube channel, so I'll be actually going to be putting some new information on that, too, in the next week or so. But that particular YouTube channel, and it's under YouTube, obviously, you go to Holistic Wellness. There's some videos on there of all the different technologies that we do, and it's just some good information, not overwhelming, and nothing's over like 7 minutes, so we try to keep it nice, short, and sweet. But that's probably the easiest way to get a hold of us. Of course, our Facebook page. Our Facebook page always has some very fun things, and we're getting more gadget, more like you, Alexa. We're trying to have more things that people can look at, but that's kind of a great place to start for me. And if you go to our website, you'll be able to tap into like the NET information as well. And again, Alexa, I'm sure you'll be putting some of that information out there for people to look at. And, don't hesitate to connect with me if people want to order some things and things like that.
Yeah, no problem. And I'll make sure and add all this in the show notes so everyone has where they can learn more and everything that we talked about in today's show. So thank you again so much for being here. We learned so much. I really appreciate it.
Always completely my pleasure. Take care of yourself.
I always learn so much from her. Even though when I go into her office, I tend to quiz her about new and exciting things and different questions I've had. I really value every word she says, and I hope you learned so much. I mean, the mind is such a powerful tool, and if we can start to learn to work with it and to use it to our benefit, I believe we can experience great things, not to mention happiness and a life full of joy. Because at the end of the day, we can get healthy and never be happy or joyful. But where lasting health comes from, that can only be achieved when you have happiness and joy mixed in. So we have to have all three in order for it to last and to be a life worth living. So again, I hope this podcast was helpful. Make sure you head on over to the show notes at simplerootswellness.com/093 to get all the information on today's show. I'm linking everything she talked about so you can check it out, learn more, and check out some of those tools and resources she had mentioned. And while you're there, if you wouldn't mind leaving a rating and review, it would mean the world to me. I say it all the time, and I probably will continue to say it because these are the lifeblood of the show. This is what makes it go round. This allows iTunes to make the show visible and findable by other people, to join this tribe of people who are trying to experience real and lasting health. Not health that's here one day and gone the next, but lasting health, and that starts with having a tribe. So again, make sure you head on over to the show notes at simplerootswellness.com/093 to leave a rating and review, or you can find me on iTunes at Simple Roots Radio. Thank you so much for tuning into another episode. On Friday, we're coming out with the very first bonus episode of your most embarrassing health questions asked. There's a special guest on the show. I'm not going to give you any more details than that, but it's going to be a lot of fun, and I hope answering some of those questions, maybe you've been too embarrassed to ask your healthcare provider or even Google search on the internet. Or maybe you've Google searched it and the answer hasn't been what you want, and you've had to do a little too much digging for your comfort. Don't worry. I have you covered. There's no question too embarrassing that we won't cover here on the bonus episode. So stay tuned on Friday for the special episode. And coming out soon are some new recipes. So I hope you'll join me over on Simple Roots Wellness. Stay tuned. We got more goodness coming your way. And next week, I'm doing a deeper dive into the emotional component of our health. So stay tuned for that. I look forward to seeing you back here on Friday.